All right, we're live. Roasters Marketplace, second episode of Meet Your Roaster. Tonight, I'm your host, Chris Greenfield, and we are meeting with Brian from Unrest Coffee Company, all the way from Maine tonight. He's braved the cold, chilly temperatures and the polar bears to come in and talk to us tonight a little bit about his coffee company, his roastery, and what he's doing up there in the Great North Woods. So a little bit of background here, and talked about it last time, was when I started Roasters Marketplace a couple months ago. One of the things I really wanted to do was get on here and tell the stories of everybody I was meeting in the specialty coffee business, the roasters I had been coming into contact with. Everybody had a really awesome story. And I wanted to highlight that. I wanted to bring more attention to the roasters because a lot of times you just see the products, you don't really get the story. And, you know, if we were walking around a farmer's market and we saw Brian selling his coffee there, we could interact with him face to face. And a lot of times you don't get that personalized experience on the internet. And I want to bring that personalized experience back to this and really showcase the roaster. And so tonight, Brian's taking his time. It's already kind of late there since you're on Eastern time, and he's in the studio live with us tonight. So first things first, Brian, go ahead and give us a little bit about your background, where you're from, what your other career is, your family, and how you were kind of introduced to specialty coffee.
Sure. I feel like we're at the podcast, I need to say something like, "Oh, it's a pleasure to be here." But I've been big into podcasts for a long time, so it's kind of cool. Finally be on one. Shout out to Crime Junkie, my favorite podcast, Ashley Flowers and Britt. And but anyways, so my name is Brian. I'm a co-owner, I guess, of Unrest Coffee with my wife Gretchen. We really do it hand in hand. It's like a family, really run small business. I do it sort of on the side. My full-time job, I'm a clinical analyst for a healthcare system throughout Maine. And so I do that during the week, really the 9 to 5 is doing that. And then nights and weekends, I'm roasting coffee. Mondays are like our big roasting day. I have that off from my normal job. So that's pretty much all coffee all day. So we do that. I'm married, as I said. My wife's name is Gretchen, and she does really all of she packages everything. She gets stuff ready. She does tons of the grinding. She does the delivering. She does most of the social media for us. She does a lot of like kind of the cold call emails and stuff. And I primarily do the roasting and kind of manage that side of it and making sure we've got green beans on hand and everything that we kind of need from that side. And I handle a lot of the inventory, packaging and stuff, and getting all that ordered and ready. We've got 3 kids, Jude, Lucy, and Lennon. And no, we're not huge Beatles fans. Everyone always asks. We like the Beatles, but we're not as big of fans as we should be to have 3 kids named after the Beatles. But so they're 10, 8, and 3. So they keep us very, very busy. And as far as coffee, getting into it, really, I've always loved coffee. It's been a big passion of mine for a while. Me and my wife, we love coffee, drink it every day, look forward to it. It's like the first thing we do when we wake up is get that coffee rolling. And so always been a long time drinker and of coffee. And we met with my wife's friends from college, actually a number of years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I think. We met her. She was visiting up from New Hampshire, and we were just sitting and talking and catching up on life and where they're at. And she started talking about how she was roasting coffee at her house. And it just never even occurred to me that people are able to do that. And I just picked her brain, and I remember leaving that day and just talking my wife's ear off and being like, "Can you believe that? Like, you can roast coffee?" And we could do that at home. And so I just obsessed about it and started looking into it, and finally saved up a little bit of money and bought my first roaster, which was just a little 1 pound Be More roaster, which it's like a little drum roaster. It looks like a toaster oven basically, but a great starter home roaster if you're looking to get into it. It's like $300 or $400, but produces really good coffee. So we started doing that, and we sold it a little bit here and there, just sort of like to friends and family, and nothing legitimate or anything. And did that over the years, and that's really where it kind of started from. Was that kind of initial conversation to realize that that's actually a possibility. So that's the very beginning of coffee for us.
It's always neat that it's and I was talking to a couple other people about it. It's always through someone else. There's always a connection when it comes to coffee where you got into it from somewhere else. I got into it because, one of my best men from my wedding got me into it. It's not like, oh, I was just sitting around thinking, hey, let's roast coffee or let's get into specialty coffee. There's always that connection, which is really, really
right.
cool.
And the cool thing about like home roasting is, usually you really want to roast. And so roasting a batch takes, 15 minutes or so, give or take. But then you want to do another batch. But then by the time you keep roasting, you've got more coffee than you can drink. So then you start handing it out to friends and family, and then you start talking about it. And pretty soon they're interested and they want to roast coffee. So it's really a neat, how kind of the ripple effect of once one person starts roasting, it really trickles down to friends and family and sparks a lot of conversations, which is really important, I think.
That's awesome. So when you started to transition from, oh, it's a hobby to, okay, let's do it a little bit more. Let's do it. You went to a wood-fired roaster, right?
So a little history on Unrest Coffee. It actually started in 2015 with a good friend of mine. His name was Micah, and he started the company really he started roasting just at home. He was a home roaster for a little bit, and he roasted over on a wood stove. And it kind of progressed from there for him. He same way, like other people started tasting it and they really liked it and they loved the idea of it. And so he began that in 2015 and then I kind of came into the picture probably beginning of 2018, I think, somewhere around there. We met through both of our sons were in the same kindergarten class. And so we sparked up a friendship really over coffee roasting and coffee. And so I started helping him kind of with the website side of things and shipping orders for him. It was a side that he wasn't a huge fan of. He didn't like that piece of kind of the whole thing. So I was like, hey, I'd love to do that. So whatever I could do to help. And so I kind of did that. And at that time he was fire roasting it over. It began with a wood stove and then it kind of evolved, and he had it was over like a charcoal fire setup. And we did that for just until really this summer is when I took over. I purchased the company in the beginning of the summer, about May to June. I took over and started roasting. And I did the same thing, roasting with charcoal and kind of a fire roasting process, which took a long time. It was not a smooth process. It's got the burns to show it. It took a lot longer. It was just a lot harder to kind of regulate and to, create predictable profiles when you're roasting. And working full time, I thought, me and my wife would have loads of conversations as I was roasting, late into the night, thinking if we want to grow this, if we want to sustain this and kind of make this a scalable business, we might need to look into going with a more conventional commercial roaster. And so in September of this year, just 6 months ago, we purchased a 5 kilo roaster that's propane fired instead of wood fired. And we've been roasting that way ever since. So for me, it was really Going from a 1 pound little kind of more automated roaster that you press some buttons and then you just let it carry on its roast, to go into a 5 kilo roaster and roasting like 10 pounds at a time very quickly. So it was, there was not a whole lot of, planning and figuring a lot of it out. It was mostly just kind of learning trial by fire, and really taking what I'd learned on a small scale and adapting it to a bigger scale, and researching, watching all the YouTube videos I could find on roasting, and talking to other roasters that I could come in contact with, and just learning as much as I could. That's kind of the beginning of Unrest for when we entered the game, I guess.
So it wasn't too long after then. Then I ran into you in November then on the roasting forum, and started talking on there about websites, and now here we are. Awesome.
Right.
And what about, let's see, when you get your green beans, they're local, right? I see you, I remember a couple weeks ago, you driving down and picking them up from a warehouse. When you go in to do that, and a lot of people, maybe some of our viewers don't understand how the green bean process works. There's all these green bean importers that import green beans from all over the world, and they distribute them through different points in the country, basically to, larger roasters or commercial roasters or small batch roasters like Brian here. But when you go to pick up a batch of green, do you know what you're going for, or do you just going to go there and be like, I know I need some Papua New Guinea because I need to replenish the stock, and let's just see what else he's got. How's that work for you?
Yeah, so it's really it's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of trying new things. But for me, Papua New Guinea, organic Papua New Guinea is really like the biggest bean that we use primarily. So I'll be going down this weekend, probably Monday. I'll pick up a couple bags of that, like 130-pound bags. I'll get of that, and then really, it just depends on kind of where we're at and what we're looking at doing. Right now, we're working on a blend. It'll be our first true blend that blends a couple different origin beans from different areas of the world. And so for that, it's a lot of it's really just researching and seeing kind of what beans have I used in the past and what origins do I really enjoy certain aspects of, and then asking the guy, what do you have, what do you carry, because coffee, when you get a coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, and you say, can I just get a medium or whatever, it's pretty much the same taste all the time. And because they use a lot of kind of filler beans that really balance out and so as crops kind of come and they go and they're seasonal, that they have to kind of fill the gaps in with beans that are close to those same profiles. So where we use Papua New Guinea, they have specific growing seasons. So there is some time in the summer where it gets harder to find. So you might have to switch and go with like a Sumatra is a very similar bean to Papua New Guinea. So it really just depends on what you're looking to do. We're looking at trying to do a few more single origin offerings. So a lot of that's just coffee that I've had in the past that I thought was really good. And then I'll check with our wholesaler and see what he has for offerings. And then basically just pick something up. And then a lot of times we kind of have, I think it's a unique situation where we're at, that the guy that we get our green beans from, he is local. He's about 50 minutes away from me. So he pulls primarily from New Jersey, is where most of his stuff, I believe, is held. So when I order stuff, it takes about a week to come up. But he's a roaster himself, so he has a lot of stuff on hand. So I can buy in kind of smaller portions to trial stuff out, and I can buy 10 pounds of a bean and then not have to buy a huge pallet load at a time and then realize that it's not quite what I was hoping it would be. So it's really just been a learning curve for me to try to figure out, which beans do I enjoy the most, or which beans do other people enjoy the most, and then taking those and figuring out how do you roast them best, like what brings out the best character in that specific bean, and to highlight kind of the more chocolatey flavors, the more fruity stuff. If you're, big into Ethiopians, if you really want like a real fruit forward cup of coffee that when you smell it, you're smelling blueberry or strawberry, or you more into stuff that's more, dark chocolate, caramel notes. And so roasting the bean and trying to figure out where is its sweet spot for what you're trying to achieve. So that takes a bit to figure that out, a lot of trial and error, and really just a lot of coffee drinking to figure out what tastes best.
Which is the hard part, right? Whether you're,
it is
a tasting. I did the Specialty Coffee Association taste intro to coffee. We probably had 20 or 30 different coffee samples that day, and you were always like, man, I really want to drink a little bit more of that. Or it was just like all we were getting, was just a spoonful doing a cupping. But there was some phenomenal stuff, and there was some bad stuff too that we were just so we know what the bad stuff was.
It's interesting as you get into coffee, and I think a lot of people just think coffee is coffee, that the way one coffee tastes different than another is just the company that sells it. But there's just such a wide variety in coffee from different parts of the world that tastes totally different than coffee from another part of the world. And so it's really, really neat to kind of get into that and to figure that out, and to try to educate people and let them see a glimpse of what different coffees could taste like.
Man, I know from talking to you before, you kind of dabbled in home brewing at one point, and I've always wanted to get into home brewing, but the difference between coffee and home brewing beer is you can get up first thing in the morning and have a cup of coffee, and nobody's going to worry about you. The fact that you're having that cup of coffee instead of cracking into a sixer at 7 o'clock in the morning, so it's a lot more convenient and socially acceptable to walk around with a coffee cup than it is a beer out in public.
Yeah, I really got big into beer brewing with a bunch of friends, and we used not roast. We used to brew quite often, and we'd get together and we'd all brew a big 5-gallon batch each, and trade different beers and get to try out a lot of different stuff that way. And then once kids came along, it was harder to spend 4 hours with a bunch of guys every weekend and doing the whole brewing game. And so I started to have less and less time, and that's kind of when coffee came in, that I could roast coffee in a fraction of the amount of time and still have kind of that same camaraderie and being able to trade and give people samples and let them try it out. So they're a lot alike, I think. And I think kind of one thing that I'd love to see, and I like through this roasters marketplace, is just being able to see other roasters and be able to connect with them, and really try to foster relationships, a lot like the craft beer scene in Maine in particular. It's huge. I think Maine's one of the top craft beer states, per capita. I think that we have so many breweries around, and you just look at them and the relationships that they have with each other. It's really cool to see them working together, and when one company upgrades, they're selling off their stuff to another. So I'd really love to see get more into that with the roasting side of things, and to not see people as competition, but to see people as fellow roasters and learn from each other, which has been kind of neat to find as I've started this journey.
Yeah. At some point we're going to have a Roasters Marketplace conference down the road where we all get together, hopefully. So so you've got the greens. We're going to get back into the roasting process a little bit. What is your favorite part of the roasting process? What part of it excites you the most on because, for example, I love to cook. I'm a big foodie. I love all that stuff. But my favorite part is setting the food in front of everybody else. My favorite part is watching everybody else eat, just because, when nobody's talking, you've you've done a good job.
Right. As far as like just the roasted part, I mean, I love hearing people talk about it, and people say, "Oh, I had your coffee," or "I picked your coffee up somewhere," and they really loved it. Like that's always good to hear when you're crafting something and you're kind of put something out there that people can drink it and enjoy it. I think it's really cool when you have people that come back and buy more, and they become regulars of your coffee. But during like the actual process, I just love like just the different smells. It's funny how everyone thinks, oh, you roast coffee, like your house or your area must smell, amazing. That must smell so good. But then when they come over, they check it out. They're like, oh, that doesn't smell anything like coffee, which is it's funny to hear, but I like the different smells along the way, and how roasting is really, there's a lot of you using your sight as the beans change color. The sound, you're waiting for the different cracks, once first crack hits and then second crack, if you're going that far. And then just how each one of those stages has a different kind of distinct smell. And so I love, with a roaster where you can, pull the dryer out and you can check it and see where it's at in the process, and just smell it along the way. And then obviously once you drop it into the cooling tray and everything's crackling along and it just sucks all the smoke out. That's just my favorite part, kind of when you're just dropping it and then all that beautiful coffee comes out, ready to go. It's my favorite part, I guess.
Nice. I should have had some images on the roll so we could pull up.
Right.
So some people that might not know what it looks like. I think if you go to our homepage, you can see a cooling tray right there with the coffee coming out of the roaster. It's a pretty neat process, and one of these days I can't wait to. A couple of my local guys have invited me down. I've just got to get the time to go do it, and I've got to go take pictures of one roasting as well. But I can't wait to be there for that process as it changes. It just sounds amazing. Do you have any, let's see, let me scroll through my pre-made questions here. Do you have any particular rituals that you do when you roast? Like, is there, what band what are you listening to? What are you doing? Is there something weird that you do when you roast? You always wear the same shoes. I don't know,
Oh man, no, I wish. It's really hard to listen to much, I think, because once you kick on that cooling tray, there's a lot of volume from that, so it's hard to listen. But I always have music going. A big favorite of mine, I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts. So I listen to those a lot of the time. So if you're drinking our coffee, there was probably a serial killer podcast going on while I was roasting it, or different music. But as far as like weird little rituals, I guess I don't really have much going on there. I'm usually just flying around, getting stuff ready, like while one batch is going, prepping for the next batch and getting buckets ready so you can, fire one off and just go from one to the next, or packaging stuff up while I'm roasting. It's really a pretty quick process, so you're always on your feet, but nothing real weird. I should get something though. Good question.
Here, I'm seeing if the audience wants to chime in here on anything as well. There we go. All right. So I've got two questions. I kind of got them backwards on my list here, so I'm going to flip-flop them so they make a little bit more sense. And do you have a current favorite roast that you're doing?
Of my own?
Yes. Or of somebody else. I mean, we'll talk about that too.
They're all pretty good. I flip-flop from going like the real dark roasts and getting into that, and then just going with a real basic medium. Of our own coffee that we roast, I really like our Blue Hill blend, which is it's a medium roasted coffee with beans from Papua New Guinea, and mixed with chaga. That's locally sourced from northern Maine. That's kind of one of my go-tos as far as we do. And then I've been really big into our seasonals too. I like the Winter Harbor. I like that kind of cinnamon and nutmeg taste that we add. But the Blue Hill is probably my like go-to coffee that we brew or that we roast and brew at home.
I've had the let's see, I have had the winter. No, I the first thing I ordered from you was the Baxter, and I think the Harvest Blend. What was it? Harvest Blend or the Fall Blend?
We did. Yeah, that was our fall blend. Yeah,
that was really good.
Yeah,
they were both really
Haynesville.
Good. The Baxter was just for a medium dark coffee. There's just so many different layers to that one. That was it was really good coffee. That's why I picked it. Roaster's Choice for the month of January. Right, was the Baxter, and it still is Baxter. If you sign up for that, here's the plug. Here's the plug. So if you sign up for Roaster's Choice this month, you get a bag of Baxter from Unrest Coffee Company. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to back it up. Chaga.
Yeah.
What is chaga? Explain to us.
So I get asked that all the time. So chaga it's a mushroom basically, and it grows on birch trees. And so if you've ever seen a birch tree with like this big kind of thing growing on the side of it, it's really hard. It's really got a almost like a wood consistency, but it grows on the side of birch trees, and it's like a superfood basically. It's got loads of antioxidants. It's really healthy. It's been linked to a lot of studies that say it can, prohibit cancer growth. It's good for inflammation. It's just a really good, like kind of healthy additive that we add to our medium roasted coffees, and we call it our Blue Hill blend. So it's a mixture of coffee with not a ton of chaga, but just enough so that you're still getting those health benefits, but you don't notice the taste. Chaga really has almost no taste at all. We sell it not just in our coffee, but we also sell it loose to do like chaga tea with, and it really has almost no flavor at all. So we get that from a gentleman up in Fort Kent, Maine, which is about as north as you could possibly get in the state of Maine. And he sources it locally up there and processes it himself, and then we get it from him. So it's one of those things that once you start explaining it and you start saying it's a mushroom, people are like, and you add that to coffee? That's really weird. But it's really good. We have a number of friends our regulars that they drink it every day. And when they run out and they have to go, if they run out of our coffee and they're in a bind and they're drinking other coffee, they say they can really notice the lack of the benefit from it when they're drinking it all the time. For they're very active people, and saying how it helps with aches and inflammation and stuff like that. So that's chaga in a nutshell, I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's
pretty cool, and it's available. I need to get some of that the Blue Hill to try it out from you one of these days.
Yeah.
Let's see, we talked about that one. Current favorite. Okay, here we go. Do you have a favorite way of brewing? What is your favorite way to brew a cup of coffee?
It depends on the day. My wife, I have in our cupboard in our corner of our kitchen is just like overflowing with coffee gear, I guess. Different pour overs. I got a couple of different ones of those, and a couple of different French presses and the AeroPress and little percolator. It really depends on the time of day, how much time I have. But I've been using a Hario really quite a bit, just doing the pour over. If it's just myself, if it's me and my wife, it depends on the mood that she's in. If she's got time, I like to use the Chemex as well, which is, it can do more volume than just a simple Hario. At work, I bring a AeroPress with me, It's one of my favorites. Brews a really strong cup of coffee, almost like an Americano. Those are my go-to. And then we have obviously just a generic Ninja, like pour automatic coffee maker as well.
Yeah.
It's always good coffee.
I've been stuck on that V60 here for the last couple of weeks. Because it just I've got it down. I know. Hey, I know this is what I'm going to shoot for grams. This is what I'm shooting for temperature. This is what I'm shooting for on my time. And I know, 600 grams of water is going to fill up my 20-ounce cup right to the brim, and I'll have just enough if I want to put cream or sugar. And so we always do the coffee pot, the automatic coffee pot in the morning. So unless I forget, then I have to be the coffee fairy. And every once in a while, if my wife is getting ready to go to work and she sees that I've posted a picture of a pour over, she's like, where's my fancy coffee?
Where's mine?
Yeah. So I end up losing a cup if I'm not careful in the morning, because we trade out. But
I like the Hario. It's just, we have just a plastic one, and it's just so slick. I feel like I've had a couple other of the lesser known pour overs that they're just not, I don't know what it is about the Hario, if it's the big opening in the bottom or like the little swirls along the inside, but it brews not too slow but not too fast, so you just get a really good extraction from it. And it's one of my favorites probably.
Okay. I've got two. I broke the handle off of one yesterday. It fell, but you can still use it. You can still use it. You just got to pick it up from the top. It's okay.
Right.
It's okay. You also do teas, man. So how'd you get into teas?
So, like a good son, my mom is a diehard tea drinker. That's all she drinks. She's probably watching tonight. And so she's always drank tea. It's funny when you start and you get into something, you want to please everybody. And my dad, he only drinks decaf. As I grew up, I remember being in the truck with my dad, and he'd go through Dunkin' Donuts and he'd get a medium cream and sugar every day, like clockwork. And then at some point in his life, he switched over and he strictly drinks decaf. So as soon as we started roasting, he's like, "Whoa, do you got any decaf?" And I had no decaf because I don't see the point in it really. But over time I was like, "Oh, I'll get you some decaf, Dad." So we do sell decaf. We got like a Columbia that we get, and we actually do some Sumatra decaf. It's actually pretty good. My dad really likes it. He loves it. We got a few other decaf people out there, but for tea, my mom is big into tea, and I really like tea as well. It's kind of one of those afternoon drinks that I enjoy. And so the guy that actually, the company that we get our green coffee from, he also imports a bunch of tea as well. So he has on his offering sheet, he's just got a bunch of tea, and just started going over one day with the wife and looking at the different things that he could get, and just kind of spiraled from there. We thought, why not give it a whirl? Because coffee and tea, they kind of go well with each other. I feel like you're either a coffee drinker or you're a tea drinker, and then if you don't drink either one of them, I don't even know. I don't know how you function.
We've got to check.
I
can see what's going on. Somebody.
So we got into it really that way. It's still really new for us. We only carry I don't know, like 6 or 7 different teas, and it's been fun. I feel like I drink ever since we started this whole coffee roasting and getting into it. I've just drank insane amounts of coffee, and now I drink insane amounts of tea as well.
Awesome. We've got we've got surprise. Sue McDonald asks, what temperature for the water do you recommend to brew coffee?
Whew. That's my Aunt Sue. Good to see you. That's a tough one. I think, I usually go for between 195 and like 200, 202 maybe at the top. It's something that I've been experimenting more and more with. As like you, Chris, I've seen your pictures of you geeking out in the coffee with the scales and all that stuff and weighing grams and everything. It's really interesting to see how your water temperature can affect the overall taste of your cup of coffee as well. So that's been neat. We got a new an automatic coffee maker, and it brews super hot coffee, way hotter than our old machine.
Yeah.
So I don't know if my old one was just dying or this one's just ridiculously hot, but it produces really good coffee though. So I don't think it's too hot.
See, I don't trust my coffee maker. We went through this bad. We had we had some bad luck with some fancy coffee makers that were given to us as gifts back in the day when we got married, and then we switched back. We got like the $30 Mr. Coffee, and that was kicking it for a long time. But we got really hard water here, and so coffee makers, that's real rough on them. But we got a new one just a few weeks ago. Business expense, by the way, IRS.
Oh yeah.
But I'm thinking it gets too hot after the brew. I keep on turning the plate down. I think it's not brewing as hot as it should, but then it's heating it up afterwards, which isn't doing you any good. It's not because it's after the process. Now you're just not boiling your
right.
coffee,
Yeah.
heating up your brewed coffee. So I need to get in there with my meat thermometer and see what that water temp is coming out. And see if
I know
it's
that's something
even close
I'd like
enough.
to test out. Yeah, we were in the hunt for a new coffee maker, and we got like a super fancy one. Spent too much money on it, and it could do all kinds of stuff. And we ended up returning it because it just wasn't great. And then I just said, I want the coffee maker with the biggest carafe possible. So where we ended up.
Ours is physically impossible. I want to do a YouTube video on it. Ours is physically impossible to do a 15-to-1 ratio with anything more than 10 cups of coffee. I mean, you can't put enough coffee in the machine for it to brew 12 cups at a 15-to-1 ratio, or else you'll have coffee everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
That's going to be a great YouTube review, by the way. Break out the old drill sergeant. I was kind of upset when I figured that out. Then my buddy, one of my friends here, Daryl Jones, he asked, do you see a big difference between slow pour and the other ways to brew the same bean or roast? I'll let you field your answer, then I'll come back in on that
one. So between slow pour, so would that be like a pour over? Is that what you're thinking, Chris?
I would say a pour over.
I think so. I think, definitely if you do a pour over versus, a traditional automatic coffee maker, you're going to get just some more flavor. I feel like a more a stronger cup when you go that route, especially if the same bean, like you can brew coffee so many different ways and you're going to get different tastes with each one of them. If you do a French press, which is another one of my favorites, there's no paper filter in that. So you're getting way more of the oils from the beans. And so you're getting a lot richer kind of a taste versus a traditional or even a pour over that has a paper filter. You can get pour overs with the mesh, like a wire filter, stainless. Like I have one of those for my Chemex, and it gives a little bit more of the grit in there, but not quite the same as the French press. But
yeah, those Chemex filters are pretty thick. They make a beautifully clean cup. But I know, like I really like a medium dark roast in a French press, and I'll go in with some really, between 200 and 205 really hot water, and I'll go for even a long brew at a 15-to-1 ratio, and it's almost chewy. Like there's almost a texture, there's a full body to that cup of coffee, and it's that's one of my favorite ways to do it, is just kind of push that envelope. And when we were doing that introduction to coffee class, we did there was 6 or 8 people in the class, 6 people I think, did it at the Blended In Coffee Cafe here in Houston, a beautiful spot there in Sugarland, where one of my roasters actually roasts. But but we all did French press. We brewed 1 cup of coffee that class, and we all did French press, and we all did either a different temperature of water or a different grind altogether, but it was all the same bean. And then we cupped it, and we're able to test out each one from, a medium fine, which you typically wouldn't go for French press, to a coarse, to a classic. And that particular coffee came out better, and everybody agreed. Everybody, I mean, it was kind of like a blind taste test, but everybody agreed that medium fine was the best one. And you wouldn't have done that if you would have just been saying, hey, it's a French press, it has to be a coarse grind.
Right. Yeah.
We wouldn't have found that. I might get a kid running through the green screen here in a second. I can hear them in the hallway chanting something. But as long as they're clothed, if I drop out, that means somebody came through naked. We don't want to do that with YouTube or Facebook. Little ones. So, but that's it. That's the beautiful part about coffee, and having a couple different ways. And if you have the time to geek out on it, if you're able to do it and be like, okay, I'm going to do a 30, 16 to 1 or 17 to 1 ratio, or basically that for people who are not quite in on that, it's 1 gram of coffee to every 15 grams of water, or 1 gram of coffee to every 17 or 18 grams of water. It's just a really simple ratio that's easy to do with a calculator on how much water you have. And we'll go into that later. I'll put some links down in below in the comments on where to find some of that information. But it's just awesome to be able to go from take that 1 bean and see the different flavors that you can get out of it with brewing it different ways. It's just really amazing. They say that there's more flavor notes in coffee than there is wine. So it's pretty cool. Let's see. For someone new to the fresh roasted coffee, as in not necessarily specialty coffee. We have the gamut on our website. We have some non-specialty stuff, but most of our stuff's specialty, at least 84 rated or higher. For somebody new, that's what I always get. Like, Chris, what's your favorite coffee? And I'm just like, I can't do that. Like, it's so hard. There's a couple coffees that I have up on the website that, I'll go back and I'll order it again. And because it's just, you take that first sip, especially if it's a good breakfast blend, maybe, and you're just like, oh, that's it. That's it. But for somebody new to our website, new to your website, new to specialty coffee, what do you recommend getting in that? What do you recommend first purchase?
Yeah. Well, we have a sample pack that has, 3 different coffees that you could get. That's a good option. But, I would just recommend you try different things, try different roast levels, and really look. A lot of roasters, do things, they label their products far better than I do, in the fact that they have a lot of tasting notes, and they'll give you a little bit of history and kind of like what they went for with that roast, with that bean profile. And so I just, try different things, something that you might not think you'd like, go with something a little lighter than you normally would. I think it's something I've been learning is, traditionally I really liked, dark roast. And I think everyone thinks, there was a time when everyone was dark roasted coffee. That was, it's got to be bold and dark and strong. And everyone, you kind of think about dark roasted coffee as having the most caffeine and all of that, but really it's got less caffeine than a light roasted coffee does. And so, and it has totally different flavors. So just try a bunch of different things. I know I have a friend that he doesn't drink coffee at all, and he was talking about how he'd like to get into it. And I was just like, you just gotta try it. And you got to try it more than once, because you might like it black. You might like certain coffees with cream and sugar. I'm traditionally a cream and sugar guy, but there's a lot of coffee out there that it's so fresh and it's roasted so well that I just drink it straight black, and I love it. So it's all, trying stuff out and not being afraid to try new things, especially when you get into specialty coffee. If you were, a lot of the names can be, intimidating, to different geishas and the, estate coffees and, micro lots, and you hear all these things, and it almost sounds like, too complicated to even place the order because you don't know what that's going to be. But a lot of that, if you put that to the side and kind of focus on that later, just give different things a try, because you're going to be blown away at the different flavors that you can find in just a simple cup of coffee.
Yeah, I had a customer when we were like a week old, I think. I might have had 12 roasts on the website, and had the feedback on a Facebook group like, oh, they don't have any dark roasts. Like weren't anything. We didn't have any dark roast. I'm like, hey, go try this one. You'll be surprised.
Yeah.
Don't just say it's got to be dark. I've had the gamut from light. I even have a white roast that's almost peanutty. It has a crack.
I saw that. I got to order that one up.
It's Shane is killing it over there at Tow Bar on the opposite side of the country that you are on, but it's a big thing, I guess, up in Northeast or Northwest is the white coffee, and they do it a lot in Kuala Lumpur, I think, Indonesia. There's some white coffee stuff, but it's really peanutty. It's got a kick to it, because it hasn't lost anything. It's really good. But yeah, you got to try the lighter roasts. You got to really try them, and you've got to go in saying, you know what? It might not taste like I expect a coffee should. You know what?
Yeah.
Why is there lemon and citrusy and blueberry? It's not that we're adding these flavors. That's the notes that you can pick up. You might not be able to pick it up, or you might be like, that I don't taste blueberry, I taste blackberry. Well, that's what your brain thinks. That's what there's no way to, whoever thought of grape flavor, right? That's not grape flavoring on something, that's purple.
Yeah.
That's the way purple tastes. It's not great. But it's just a really awesome process.
And you can get a good strong cup of light roasted coffee. And I think a lot of people think if you're just getting a light coffee, like a light roasted coffee, it's just going to be weak. Yeah. And, it's going to be real watery, but you can get some great coffee that's light roasted.
And then it's all on how you brew it. And that's, that weight to water ratio and time and temp really matter when you get down into it. You can bring really strong light roast. And, even though I drink, 2 or 3 cups of coffee, big cups, real cups, not those, big cups of coffee every day. You can get one of those really fresh light roast, and you're not even halfway through it, and you're like, yep. Caffeine is there. It's really awesome. So as we kind of wrap up here, we got about 11 minutes left on the scheduled broadcast time here. Where are you carried locally? Hang on a second. We got somebody trying to break in a door. I think Mom got him.
Yeah, locally, if you're in the greater Bangor area, so we are serving our coffee up at Erickson's Hardware, and they have a little ice cream coffee shop as well there. And so they brew our coffee. They usually have 2 or 3 different of our roasts on brew there, and you can also buy our retail bags there as well. That's locally to Hampden. And then in Bangor, we have Central Street Farmhouse, which is a home beer brewing kind of supply house. They're a really cool store in downtown Bangor that sells anything you'd need for craft brewing, beer, cheese making, a lot of stuff like that. It's a really cool store. They sell our bags of coffee. And a couple other places. We have Tiller and Rye, which is a really cool kind of organic whole foods type of grocery store and brewer. They carry all of our coffee, and as well as they're starting to carry a couple of our teas as well. Our wellness tea and the chaga. And the wellness tea is it's really good. It's got lavender, elderberry, just a bunch of really good antioxidant rich teas and other flavors in there, other herbs.
My sister-in-law is a huge fan of your wellness blend.
Yeah, I just sent her some the other day.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's Tiller and Rye, and then the Logical Sip, they brew our Blue Hill blend and the Winter Harbor. Actually, they are another kind of organic, real health conscious cafe and place they do lunch as well, and they have a lot of really good local products in there. A lot of really health and wellness is their big focus there. We have the Only Donut in Belfast, Maine, is a little donut shop that just creates amazing donuts. They brew our coffee and sell it. And the last place, right off the top of my head, is a place that's kind of closed right now during the winter, but it's called Yellow Birch Farm. And they have like a big farm stand, and they do a lot of these farm to table dinners throughout the summer where you have to book ahead and you buy a ticket, and it's like a whole evening experience. So they do our coffee there as well. It's a really cool place. As well as online and Roasters Marketplace.
Awesome. And I want to step back for a second, and hopefully you've got a there in Bangor, you've got a good following watching tonight, or you'll have on your social media later. And as somebody who's been through Bangor quite a few times through the airport, I want to thank everybody there for the amazing support that you show our soldiers as they go through there, on their trips overseas, because that's a lot of times could be the last place they see. And it's a really awesome place, and it's awesome support from everybody when it come in. We actually got to spend the night one time on my last trip back from Iraq. We spent the night, and it was just like, they had done it before, but they're like, oh, we can't fly out. You're fogged in Fort Hood. We're not leaving. And, school buses started showing up at the airport to get us to the hotel, and they just put us up all over town, fed us. It was an amazing experience. So from somebody who's been there a couple times and only got to leave the airport once, I want to thank y'all for your support. It's amazing up there.
Yeah.
So
I believe it's the last airport, going overseas, and then it's the first one to come back.
Yep.
So it's definitely a big hub, and Maine or Bangor is really well known for the greeters, the guys and the men and women who go out
they do an awesome
troops.
time. Engaging with people, talking to people, making sure that you had, when first time I went over there, we didn't have cell phones, back in the day. That wasn't something that everybody had, but as they came through, the USO made sure you were getting on the phone and calling people, especially if you were on your way back. There were people handed, hey, you need to make a call, you need to text somebody. I think
awesome.
somebody at the USO let me use their phone so I could activate my cell phone that I had charged. I just had to reactivate it through AT&T on my way back in 2009. So I want to thank everybody there for their support.
That's cool.
Where are you going from here? What are we doing with Unrest? I know where we're going with Roasters Marketplace. We're going everywhere. But where are you going? Where do you see yourself with Unrest and down the road?
It's a good question. We got a few irons in the fire right now. We're working on a couple collaborations with two specific kind of local places that we haven't inked anything yet. So we're working on those collaborations with just some other companies to do some kind of really cool stuff. So be on the lookout for some updates, hopefully in the next month or so. We could have some news on that, but really we're just going to be roasting more coffee. We've got a few actually new, we have a new blend that's coming out very soon. We started, begging people for ideas for names. So if you have any cool names, throw them our way. But we've got a new blend coming out that's going to be, it's going to have some Colombia in it, some Kenya. And we're also going to be serving those up as single origin offerings. We have a new coffee straight from Honduras, actually, that we're going to do like a really limited run of. It's a really small run that we're going to do that we actually bought directly from a farm in Honduras, which is really cool. They're called legacy farms, and just the stuff that they do. This guy, he bought this coffee farm. He's from the United States, from Kansas, and he goes down there. He lives part of the year down in Honduras, and they cultivate the crop, they process it there, and it's really like a huge community event. And the way that he takes profits from that and supports the community and does, he gets electricity for people and provides chickens for people so that they can make a living and increase their income. And so the purchase of this coffee will help fund that type of work that he's doing down there. So we're going to do some runs of that. And really just, try to sell as much coffee as possible. And we're hoping to, branch out a little bit in some different areas this year. This is really be our first complete year as the owner. So we've kind of become accustomed to the business, and now we're just going to see how far we can take it this coming year. So.
Well, hopefully, I talked to you a little bit earlier about it, but you've got a special offer for the people watching. We've got one coupon code, and I'm going to put it up on the screen now. So tell us a little bit about Winter Harbor and what they can get.
Yeah, so that coupon code, you can get, I guess it's first come, first serve, free coffee.
First come, first serve.
Free bag of Winter Harbor. And it's a medium roasted coffee, and it's got some organic cinnamon and organic nutmeg, and it's an organic coffee as well. So just mixed in there. It's very subtle. It's a good kind of warm, wintry cup of coffee. There's no synthetic flavors added or anything like that. It's real spice, and it's wonderful. It's one of our daily drinkers. It's been our biggest seller this winter. It's been a tradition for Unrest to do this same winter blend. So it's backed by popular demand. So you could be the lucky owner.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm waiting for that ching hit on my phone. But hey, Brian, thanks for talking with us tonight. What we'll do is I'll pull this down later on. It's going to stay on YouTube Live. I want to get some of those links from you about your local shops where you're at. I'm all about building that local SEO, helping you out, helping them out, getting our name out there, getting your name out there. So I'll get those links from you later. I'll put them down, and I'll also put some links down on the edited version of this on where you can find the brewing processes that we talked about, where we can find, the Ario V60 or a Chemex. That way people can find it and go through my Amazon links for that. So Brian, hey man, I really appreciate you sitting down. Sorry we didn't get time to talk about your beard at all or the Celtics.
It'll be there.
Yeah, but I hope they do good. I've got or do well. I've got buddies up in Boston that I go see. I haven't been up there for years, but always nice. Enjoyed going up there. So
hey, we beat the Lakers the other night. That's all that matters.
There it is. Well, thanks, Brian. I'll talk to you around, buddy. And thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you, sir.
Take care. Bye. Appreciate it.